Here is something very exciting. It is a vintage potholder quilt. Some of you may remember that when I've been discussing potholder looms and weaving and quilts for veterans, that one of my goals was to make a potholder quilt. And after I said, gee, I want a potholder quilt, I was going through my vintage potholder books, and there it was. On one of the pages, there was a potholder quilt. So I gave up the idea of making one because in order to buy enough loops, it was going to cost me about $356 to buy enough loops to make a 135 square quilt. Well, look at this. I haven't counted the squares yet. It just got here. It is, I think, 72 by 50 something. So it's a good size quilt, and it's wonderful. I have to wash it. And at first, when I first opened it up, I was afraid that there were holes in it that I hadn't seen on the auction, especially like right here. So here are 4 squares, and doesn't that look like a hole? But then, when you flip it over, you realize that the person who made this laced it all together with cotton string and did it exactly like you would piece a quilt in rows that then got stitched together. First, you make the row, then you stitch the rows together. And you can tell that right here because the reason there's a gap, and I think the gap is at each joining, each crossing, and this one actually may have come loose. But on this one, here's one row, here's the other row, and this string coming down the middle is lacing the 2 rows together with a single crochet. Now, I didn't know any of that until I flipped it over, because when I bought it, all I saw was this side. And for some reason, these gaps weren't really showing up. And look at this. Now, each edge that wasn't picked up with a crochet hook and crocheted is hand stitched. It can be done. Now, wonderful muted colors. Browns, aqua. Just look at these wonderful vintage colors. And the potholders, the loops they make now are all bright colors. Unless you buy them from Harrisville Design, where they will sell bags of certain colors, but they're so expensive that a project like this is almost unthinkable. It's like $20 for a bag to make 2 potholders, or maybe 3. I think they're close to like $8 a potholder, which, is just nuts. The whole purpose of potholders and potholder quilts and potholder rugs and being able to weave on a potholder loom is because you used to be able to get the loops for practically nothing and make anything out of them. So this is how this one is put together. And see, here's the hand stitching. On each square, before it was laced together, each one was hand stitched. So that means the potholder would have been made, then go around it and hand stitch it, leave it loose with the loose loops, and then as you put it together, you crochet it together with string. So each potholder would have been hand stitched before it came off the loom. A lot of work, and I'm going to wash it. I'm thinking of the best way to wash it and hang it. It weighed 6 pounds, 6 pounds 5 ounces, but some of that would have been the box. So even at 5.5 pounds. But it's beautiful, and they can be done. And now a potholder quilt, a new one, is back on my list. I'm not sure I could handle all the bright colors that the loops come in now. I could buy one bag of loops a month, to string out the expense. It's about $9 to get a bag of loops that'll make 3 potholders. So I mean, I could pick those up when I can or when I see them, and just keep adding to a potholder quilt project. But it can be done, and here's the proof.